Hey guys, good morning from me and good evening to the two of you.
Good morning slash evening. Hello. How's it going?
Oh, doing pretty well, doing pretty well. It's you'll be my last live stream before I head off to Turkey next week to start the process of a sailing trip that I'll be doing. So, it's a nice little milestone that I'm looking forward to in about a week and a half.
Wow, sounds amazing for sure.
I'm excited. Yeah, how about you? How have you been?
Yeah, good. Enjoyed the summer. It's been a busy time lately, but having a good time of it all.
To see the window, it's still daylight out for you.
Yeah, so it's only about 6:30 here.
Okay,
in
that's fair.
Central Europe, so we still got a couple of months before it's totally dark by now, but but it's creeping up.
And then you get out of curiosity, in Denmark, if you need to go somewhere warm and sunny in the middle of the winter months, where do you go? Where is the common spot for your country, if there is one?
Excellent question. I think it's like in the winter months. I think it's usually you will see people flying to like Thailand or like Asia in general, if they really want to get something really warm. Otherwise, it's maybe Mallorca or Turkey as well. Could also be an option, but it's still not quite as like if you're talking the winter months. It's still not as warm as it is in the summer there, at least.
Well, true. Not covered in snow at least. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, it's been a very, very nice summer here, at least in England. Very warm summer, especially with the past few years as well. So it's been quite nice this summer. But we got to hang out as well, the three of us over here in England, actually, at Sequel Bits, which was really good fun. So hopefully if anyone came to that one, they had a good time, and always one of my favorite conferences. And I'll be back in Denmark in September, in a couple of weeks, actually, for Power BI Next Step. So,
Next Step.
Yeah,
we were at Morten's parent company, capacity 2-day and all that for training as well in June. So
in lovely Copenhagen, indeed.
Oh yeah,
it was good to hang out in London again with Sequel Bits. Great time there. It's just great that there is so much community work going around. I think I'm also looking forward to FabCon, obviously, also coming up soon. Going to be there myself as well with the rest of the Tabular Editor team. We're going to have a stand, and hopefully everyone can stop by and have a good chat.
Yeah, it's it's one of those where I jokingly, begrudgingly cry that I can't make it, but it's the reason is so it's not too bad.
Sailing in Turkey is also quite nice. So
exactly, yeah, 100%.
I will be representing us there. So whilst Reid's off having a nice time sailing and partying, I'll be over there, also chatting a lot though. So it's a lot of fun. Enjoyed the one in Vegas. Really looking forward to the one in Europe as well this year. So first time for me to Europe FabCon.
Yeah, me as well. It's also only been there twice, so we don't have had an opportunity there.
Yeah, exactly.
but now I'm looking forward to it. Vienna is also just a lovely place, so I'm also looking forward to going back there as well.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got a lot to cover today and lots to talk around. So it's good to maybe head off with it. So I think we just want to introduce Morten here. I think probably a lot of people know Tabular Editor, but we have a couple of slides on it. Morten, maybe you just want to introduce yourself, say who you are, and kind of a very high level about Tabular Editor.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Morten. I'm a PM at Tabular Editor. So I work a lot with product strategy, but it's also me. If you write into our support ticket, I'm also one of the ones who helps out there. I've been working with Tabular Editor since about 2016, and I've been at the company of Tabular Editor for about 2.5 years now, and I've been working there to help make semantic modeling easier for everyone. So Tabular Editor, the company itself, comes from the open source community tool that Daniel Oettinger created about almost 9-10 years ago. And from that work that he did there, he saw a need for more tooling around, even better tooling than what he could provide in his free time. And that's why Tabular Editor as a company was started. And since 2021, we are offering Tabular Editor 3, which is a paid version of Tabular Editor that includes all the advanced features that you would expect from a professional development interface. So that is kind of what we spend our time on. It is a has just like Tabular Editor 2, it's a Windows desktop application, so it's just something you download locally, pop up, and then you connect to your semantic models, whether that be metadata that you have locally or in the cloud in Power BI, Fabric service, or of course also on the what we call them there. Not legacy is not quite the right word, but the good old Asian analysis services and SQL analysis services.
Uh-huh.
There is still a lot of kicking around out there that are doing great work on those.
I think it's really nice to point out. Tabular Editor 2 is free and open source.
Yeah.
If you've never used Tabular Editor, I'd say definitely download Tabular Editor 2, get stuck in. We're going to talk a lot about Tabular Editor 3 today and some of the really awesome features, I think, available for more of those commercials and companies that want really, really cool stuff. So great path as well. You can always use Tabular Editor 2, but some of the awesome things, I'm really excited to have a sneak peek as well. I know we have some cutting edge stuff at the end of the video that we're lucky enough to see for the first time.
Yeah, we're going to do a little demo of the first time that we're going to do a public live demo of this little thing that we're brewing on. But that's going to be at the end, so do hang around for that. And I agree, Steve. Yeah, Tabular Editor 2 is there, it's free, it's open source, and it has all the modular capabilities. What Tabular Editor only brings to the table is those extra things that just makes your development life a little bit easier and faster and hopefully better overall. And in that regard, one of the reasons we're also sitting here is that Tabular Editor and Steve and Reid with your company Analytics endeavors we've partnered up and Analytics endeavors are the first official training partners for Tabular Editor. So we're really happy to have you guys on board for that. And really looking forward
super excited
seeing. It's been in the works for a while, but I'm really glad we could announce it around Single Bits a couple of months ago, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this partnership can bring with it.
Well, in general too, it's always it's fun to be able to partner up with a tool that at some point was a community tool. I remember it was just like, oh, what's this thing that lets me not have to use Visual Studio anymore and wait 5 minutes for the program to open, exactly. All the way up into an enterprise company that it provides training for that. So it's fun to be able to partner up with something like that. Consider just how long I've been using it for sure.
Yeah, definitely had some frustrations using some of the developer tools on Visual Studio back in the day. So it was really, really nice addition. Awesome. So I might want to kick off, and I just want to kind of go through what this new training partnership is, if anyone's wondering. So Tabular Editor has great free training available on the website. So always available. You have always the free option, right? You can go with Tabular Editor 2. You can go take the free training. What we're talking about today is kind of just wanted to explain a little bit this training partnership. We're going to then give you a nice little sneak peek and actually give you away some of the training for free. So really lucky for you. And then at the end, you get an even more sneak peek of some upcoming features not released. So very exciting. But before we get to that, obviously this is a training partnership. This is a live training. So Analytic endeavors, myself and Reid, offering live training, really emphasizing, unlike your online training, your on demand, this is a lot more learning from doing. So very lab focused. We'll be there to guide and kind of assist people, really help you get to grips and just get stuck in with Tabular Editor a lot, as well as the content that comes with it. 2 Microsoft MVPs. We also are the owners of Analytic Endeavors. So although we do a lot of training, our main job is actually consulting. So hopefully bring some of that actual real world experience along with just the training to kind of help you get along with what you're doing. Both have been traveling around the world doing training. I've been to Abu Dhabi. I've trained in New Mexico. I don't know, Reid, where some of the most interesting places you've done live trainings?
Did Japan. I've done quite a few countries in Europe. We almost did the boat in Denmark.
Yes.
For the second year. But that ended up just not happening. But that would have taken the cake for most unique spot to train on, which would have been a cruise ship.
Yeah. So lots of fun as well. We get to travel around the world, but also a lot of experience in the training. Again, we are, if you don't know us, welcome to our channel for one. But we're a consultancy and we specialize in sort of data platform implementations for the most part. Very, very strong Microsoft skill set. So a lot of Microsoft, Databricks as well, but kind of Microsoft's one of our core things. Again, this is designed really for attendees who want to learn by doing and really want to help implement this into their own projects as well. So I think one of the reasons you would pick the live training would be if you have use cases or you want to train your team, want to get good with Tabular Editor, also get some advice on actually how to use it and some of the challenges you're facing, kind of that live training that you don't get on demand. And again, obviously with this, you're able to combine with any of our other classes or even have support contracts afterwards, so that when you inevitably go and try and do this next week and get stuck on stuff, you're always there on the phone to help you. I want to give a sneak peek and just kind of an overview of what you learn in the training. So we have, it's a 2-day training. Overview of Tabular Editor fundamentals the first day. Lots of cool things. A lot on how to use Tabular Editor and just how to make yourself more efficient with it. There is a lot in Tabular Editor. I can say that really, really cool. Lots of hidden features. So definitely knowing where to do that, customizing. It's a really nice UI. Daniel, the creator, you can tell it's been created by a developer. I would say that. So everything you want that when you've been getting frustrated with tools and yelling, oh, why doesn't it do that? It's designed by a developer who knows how they're going to be used. And then day 2 is more of that advanced, right? And we'll have a look at some of the cool things that you can do today. But lots around the DAX and some of these perspectives and really interesting getting deep into the semantic model. Today, we're going to go through these kind of 4 things. We're going to give you a really quick high-level overview. Hopefully, this will just maybe be a learning experience for you as well, but also just to get a bit of an idea of what Tabular Editor can do and some of the things on how to use it. All right. With that, I just want to give us a little overview of this first module that we're going to have a look into. And this is the analysis and optimization. Honestly, this is the one I use Tabular Editor for the most, for the most part, at least to start with. One of the most great. I'm going to go through 2 tools. If you've not seen them before, absolutely amazing. I think after this, you'll be using them in every single model that you ever deploy. So the first one is going to be the Vertipack Analyzer, and the second one is going to be the Best Practice Analyzer. We're just going to have a really high-level overview of this. We've got an hour to go through 4. Obviously, in the training, we have modules and labs on all of this. So let's just introduce the Vertipack Analyzer and really quickly kind of see what it does. Vertipack Analyzer, created by our amazing friends at SQL BI. Marco Russo was actually on our channel last week, or last video.
Couple weeks ago.
Couple of weeks ago, yes. From SQL BI. If you don't know him, You're one of the few, but very, very amazing at all things DAX and tabular modeling. Available in Tabular Editor 3 only, I believe, and such a useful tool.
Yeah, so it is available inside Tabular Editor 3, but it's also a free standalone tool. You can use it also in DAX Studio, I believe, and by itself.
Yep.
Vertipaq Analyzer, you don't have to have Tabular Editor for it, but it is a part of Tabular Editor that allows you to really look at the storage engine of it.
It's there as a nice convenience as part of just a package. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, both of these tools, I should say, and the best practice analyzer available elsewhere. The reason we're going to go through it today, it's your first step, I think, in analysis, and then understanding what to do, why you would use Tabular Editor would be the next bit. Again, even if you don't have Tabular Editor 3, it's definitely one to check out. So what it does is it basically collects a lot of stats about our Tabular Editor, our semantic models. So what we would do is we would open the Vertipaq Analyze in Tabular Editor 3 and collect stats. You'll see here just some basic stats. We'll go into this a bit more in the training. Not so interesting on this page. Too much there. Maybe you just get a high-level view of your tables and columns. But you'll see at the top that we actually have a lot of tabs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this Tables tab, and we can actually see the size in memory of each of the tables within our model. So already, just by this one view, we can see how big our models are. Like, why would we care about this? Especially as we're going to fabric and skews, this can really be skew savers, right? So looking at the size of your models is really important, because as data grows, as things get bigger, this actually has a physical cost to it. It's going to be less optimized. It's going to take up more memory. So this is always the first thing that I look at whenever I'm, especially in consulting, looking at models. We can see here as well, cool things. We can see the cardinality. That's just kind of unique rows in each of the tables. So we can kind of see how much data is in our tables. Obviously here, one of the most important things on this tab is going to be the table size. So I can actually see that my products table in this data set is far bigger than all the other tables. So if I was trying to optimize this model and look and improve it, this is probably the one I would start with, is the products one. One interesting thing is this RI violations. We'll go deep into what this means, but referential integrity, if you're familiar with that term, it's not a specific thing to semantic models, but this is when we have mismatches in a fact and dimension table. So we're missing values, for example, that we have in our fact and not in our dimension. So a really important table, and this is just a really quick way to see if there's data issues, something like that as well within our model. You can also see things of bad practices. So these are actually hidden tables, and this is caused by an auto date time setting in Power BI. If you're in desktop, this information is invisible to you. And so you wouldn't be able to see it. So this is a good way to check if these settings are turned on. And this is the auto date settings. So if you're interested in that, you can have a look. Obviously, we'll cover it in the lab. So again, seeing all those settings. So just from this view, I can really quickly see, some of the key settings, see if any of my tables are much bigger than the others for some reason, and also do a bit of check on the data quality in terms of missing values. You can see here, as I mentioned, we have these RI violations in these two tables. So that's also something I would check in my model. Next, I'll click on the columns. And to me, this is one of the most important tabs. Because of the storage of the Vertipaq engine, we actually store things in a columnar store, it's called. So unlike a CSV or something, each column can actually have a different size. And I don't know if you've seen this, but sometimes there's normally one or two columns in a semantic model, which can really increase the size of a model. I've seen columns increase just because of one badly formatted column. It can increase the size of the entire model by about 3 or 4 times. So they can be really sensitive for bad formatted columns. that can really destroy your optimization.
And just as one quick anecdote on that, Steve, my favorite client story ever was when I was paid for a training down in California. I walked in, they had a 1.8 gigabyte model, 45 million rows in the facts. They had an index column on the fact, like, what's that for? Well, order counts. So do you need the ID? No. Delete column, save file, drop to 600 megabytes. The jaws obviously dropped on the floor, but like having a tool like this would have immediately saved them the need to figure that out. So like it really does pay off so much when you can see, 70% of my model size comes from like these 2 columns.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I've heard of, people reducing a SKU size on their premium licenses simply because of, a few columns in some bad models. It can be huge. So you'll see here in this highlighted column, we see this column size, and exactly as Reid was saying, some of the columns, in fact, you can see. I wouldn't worry about the numbers, what they mean right now, but you can just kind of see them in reference to each other. You can see that some of these columns are way larger than the others. So this is something you would look into, right? And this is just the analysis option. This is actually the breakdown of how that column is made up. So what goes into the column size. We'll get deep into this in the training, but it's a really nice tool that actually lets us see what is the cause of a column being so big as well. So it doesn't just tell you, this is the total size, breaks it down into a few options so we know sort of where to look. Probably the most important, and the ones I always check, is the percent of the table, which is in that table, how much of the total table space does that column take? But I think the most important one is %db. This basically means in your semantic model, what proportion of the memory is caused by this one column. And again, because columns are stored the way they're stored in semantic models, all the different columns have different sizes. And you can see this top column, the products material column, this actually takes over 1/3 of the memory of the whole model. So I've seen this as high as Reid said, 80, 90%. And just by fixing that one column, I can get 1/4 of the size of the model away. So lots of cool things. And I like this because it can really give you some very quick wins and tell you where to look if you're trying to optimize and be in good practice. Lots more tabs and columns that we won't get into today, but those are kind of the key ones and just a nice flavor of what the Vertiback Analyzer does. So typically we just use the Vertiback Analyzer, periodically during development, check all of these things. And again, when we're doing large models and we're trying to optimize or we have issues, we'd use it then as well. So as we're developing, iterating through, I'll check it. If I'm looking at a badly performing model or a big one, I'll look there as well. Next one I want to quickly run through is the Best Practice Analyzer. Again, available outside, but really nice to have in Tabular Editor. And actually, it being in Tabular Editor has some really cool additional things you can do, which you can't do elsewhere. And we'll have a look at what that is. So basically, our process, we're developing, we're validating, and we need periodically in tangent, right? And the Best Practice Analyzer will automatically kind of scan the model and it checks if your best practice rules. So it has to have some rules set up and you can write these rules yourself if you wanted. Good thing is that a lot of people have written these rules and some come from Microsoft, and Tabular Editor 3 has some sort of built-in standard rules at the box as well. So you don't need to necessarily write them. You can use the out the box, and actually that is what I do. Notifies whenever you have these rules violated, and we'll see what we mean by rules in a second, but we can see basically where aren't we using best practices. Again, saves time, improves model quality. And to be honest, one I would add is it makes you a better developer, right? Because you're getting better models, you're knowing when you're not using those best practices. The BPA rules, and this is why I say I don't write them myself, they kind of look like this. They're stored as JSON. You can do a few things, and we won't go into so much, but it has a number of settings, and in the class we'll go deep into this. But again, if this looks scary to you and you have no idea what any of this means, don't worry, because there's a bunch of rules already written and they pretty much cover all the best practices you're going to care about. So this is what the best practice analyzer looks like in Tabular Editor 3. You can see that each row here is one of those rules, and it's a violation of one of these rules. So in this model, you can see that all of these rules have been violated. We violated these best practices, which means when we designed the model, we didn't follow this best practice. If we click on this open, we can actually then see all of the columns that violate this rule. So the one that we have, the rule says, do not summarize numeric columns. That is a best practice. And if you're thinking, oh, I want to use that, in a chart, the best practice would be writing a measure specifically and not having any implicit measures, right? And then numerical columns that we're going to use should never be summarized. So this is the best practice. And again, by following this, it's going to make you a better developer, get you some good habits. You can see all of the times we haven't done this. What we can do is we can actually create a script to fix this. And this is a really cool thing in Best Practice Analyzer. We have this button and it's called Generate Fix Strip. And what this does is it generates us a load of code written in C# that will go ahead and automatically apply the fixes. So this is do not summarize numerical columns. What's happened is I've said generate this script. It's written me some code that Tabular Editor can run, and it's applied this, and now it's fixed my best practice for me without me having to go and manually do this to all the columns. This is really cool. Again, some of the best practices it's available, some it's not. For example, if it says you need to design a star schema, I can't automatically fix that. That's something I have to do manually. But anything like this, which is set the setting to do not summarize, it can easily do that. Again, if you don't really like coding, and I don't like to look at this code, there's a much even easier button here, and it's automatically apply. So I can just click on my best practice, click this automatic apply, and then it's just going to update and apply my best practice and change it for me. So this is such a huge one that definitely, if you're not doing it, I really, really want to look at the best practice analyzer. Absolutely amazing, in my opinion. I kudos as well, because a lot came from the community and everyone who's written these rules and helped out. So really, really great tool. So let's have a review of those two tools. Vertipack Analyzer, that's what we're just analyzing, right? We're not using it to fix anything, but it's a great step. We understand our model. It's how we can optimize a model. Again, improve the performance, the complexity, and really manage huge data models and get the size smaller. Again, we do things like check for the total database size, right? So we check how much that column's using. We can look at keys and if there's something missing and data issues as well. So the best practice analyzer, that was the second one, and that automatically scans for best practice violations. So often I use these two together. I'll use the Vertipack Analyzer first just to check the size of my model. Then I'll use the best practice analyzer to check the best practices. And it notifies anything, of objects violating the best practice, can automatically fix some, right? And we have to have these rules created in JSON. Can write our own, but normally you don't need to because there's a lot there that are already out the box. But again, you are able to make your own rules if you have company-specific things that you want to apply across your company. You can always edit other people's or make your own. Again, saves a ton of time, as you can imagine there. Just one click. I love it. It's one of my favorite tools. Really, really improves the model quality. With that, I'm going to hand over to Reid, and he's going to take you through a couple of other cool things, which are a bit more Tabular Editor specific as well.
Yes, absolutely. I really do wish it just, there you go. It should be able to just swap the two, between them. Either way, yes, I want to talk about perspectives. So a perspective on perspectives, if you will. So one of my favorite things about this is when a model gets to a certain size that's serving multiple audiences, especially when you are aiming towards the idea of like true like shared data set design and also self-service, perspectives come into play essentially with that. So they provide different views into the model itself. Now, this is important to know. This is not security. This is basically like imagine you have like a box of toys or a Lego set. You're basically putting out the curated pieces that make the most sense for you to build things. The box might contain a lot more of them, but if you're trying to build a great castle, you're not going to put the blue pieces out with it. You keep them in the box. That's to continue to use like Lego analogies. Like that's kind of what I think of with these. Is you're curating what's visible to allow you to more efficiently build and not have to sift through crap that you don't want as you're building it out. And the nice thing about Tabular Editor is it actually provides some really nice ways to do better design for that. Now, what you see in front of you here is people using the personalized visualizations feature. It's one of those things that I like as a nice to have. I will say as well, the other feature that I'll mention here in a bit for perspectives is more of the need to have, especially with shared data sets. But in the Power BI universe, this was the first place where they were primarily used in this capacity, where you could have a visualization and connecting to a particular subset of your visible fields in a perspective, you can change the visual around as you've seen here. Now, the other option for it is composite modeling that we'll get to, where you can actually just build an entire report off of them as well, plus a few tricks and tips that I even have some supplementary videos on that I can link you to as when I get to that point. But the big one here to me, again, is the composite modeling. And I forgot to put the link, Steve, in our chat, but if you can grab our video where I talk through how to do that without composite modeling. So if you're in Pro, you do have to enable composite model to connect to a perspective. It is something that's on the roadmap to go away. If you have premium per user, premium capacity or fabric capacity, you don't even need a composite model. You can actually use the XMLA endpoint to immediately connect to a model with the option for these perspective choices you see in front of you. And then you can build off of any number of the perspectives built off of your model without the need for composite modeling. But it allows you to basically build a report off of that subset of information. So Analyze in Excel can use it. You can connect to it in here. You can use it in personalized visuals, but it's a nice way to have a curated set of Lego pieces. If you have 100 tables in a very large enterprise model, maybe there's only 30 of them that relate to you. So I really enjoy this feature, and it's something that I commonly implement with clients. Now, getting past personalized visuals and more talking about like what Tabular Editor does for this. So it provides a really nice, intuitive, easy UI for you to be able to build it out. You essentially can just go to the model options that you will see in the directory of model items in there to be able to create a perspective. And the thing that I love about it is the perspective editor specifically. So when you go down through the navigation experience to create a new perspective, you'll eventually be given this menu here, which allows you to basically just expand and collapse any of the items you need to, and to be able to add them in via mouse clicks and options of there. You don't have to go through item by item necessarily. You can add parents or leaf level items quickly and easily as you're building this out. So this is a really easy way to configure it. And the other really nice thing I like about this too is the fact that if you built one that is going to be really similar to the next one in terms of what's visible or hidden, you can duplicate a perspective and reconfigure it. So you don't have to start from scratch every time. It even gives a couple of nice features where if a table's added, all the children are automatically added. When a table is removed, you can automatically remove all the children as well. So again, the option to add parents rather than individual levels. But it's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So you don't have to use the code or adjust anything in the Timble. Just use the UI, and it allows you to build those out for your marketing, your sales, finance perspectives, whatever might be against the master model that you have. So again, one of my favorite features, but I always have to triplicate reiterate, it is a viewing feature, not a security feature. I feel like sometimes people do conflate the two of those. But yeah, overall, it's a really great way to group fields by either specific divisions, groups, audiences that you're building these. Very easy to maintain and manage with the tool because you just have a UI specifically that lets you add, remove, or update them. And they pair well with either the personalized visuals, or again, my personal favorite is the fact that we can use either with composite modeling if you're pro only, but check out that video that I think should have been pasted in the comments, where I do actually walk through the workaround with pro versus our premium per user, premium capacity, or fabric capacity, where you can have a thin report that can also auto-magically connect to perspectives as well. All right, and another really cool one on the idea of kind of curating the model design, or the fields data pane for the audience that you're delivering this to. If you have a model that's going to be getting used for self-service across potentially different countries or languages, with a larger model, or maybe with a larger multinational company, we also have translations as well. And that is something that we once again are provided great UI experience with, to build these out using Tabular Editor 3 specifically. And there'll even be some extra little icing on the cake at the end, where you can even use some LLM or GPT models to automatically apply it for you. So within here, here's an example where we have languages between English and Dutch, between the two translations that we have in the model itself, where basically every visible or hidden item that you have in your model can be given new names to change the readability for anybody who's building off of it. This is similar to perspectives, where this is for usability. It doesn't change anything in the model itself in terms of data or structure. It's just a relabeling, so to speak, with all of these. And just like with perspectives, we have the ability to essentially, in the translations folder, we can right-click, select, essentially create a new translation, select the culture or locale of the label. Now, it's important to note when you do this, it's not going to automatically provide the new words for you. This will just be the label in the list of what it is labeled as which language is it. You could technically select Ethiopia and then put Japanese characters in there if you wanted to. That's just the label that it's going to be given before you then assign whatever the translated words are that you or whatever developer will be building these. So translating names, descriptions, folders, properties, basically anything visible. It is important to note, I think this one's often missed. If you are doing this, if you have any notes in the description, make sure to translate those as well. Those sometimes can be a little buried unless you're in the right menu in Power BI or Tabular Editor. So just make sure all text related to a field and its properties end up getting translated if you're going to be building these out. And the metadata translation editor will provide a nice overview of the translated names, descriptions, everything that I just mentioned previously in this window that's designed for it. So you have that perspective editor designed and curated to give you a great navigation experience for perspectives. This is now the one for the metadata translation editor. So you're given a lot of various editors in Tabular Editor itself to provide that curated experience that focuses on the task you have at hand, which is really nice. It's part of that nice overall experience that the UI itself and the Tom Explorer provides. Now, as I mentioned, a little bit of icing on the cake. Now, this was originally written with GPT-3. Now you can obviously do it with 4, 4.5, 4.0, any of the other ones. But if you have an API key that you can plug into, there is a way, and links provided that we'll put into the chat. But I'll just mention that you can do auto translation using some of these large language models. So if you want to save yourself a little bit of time, have it get you 80, 90% of the way, and then do some manual editing, this is a great way to do that as well. So I'd check out the article that's on the Tabular Editor website for that. But the goal with this being, just always as any word of caution, with AI it's going to get you closer to the finish line, but it will not entirely take you all the way there. So make sure you do a manual review, check the descriptions, check the titles and other stuff. Sometimes it hallucinates or does a weird translation. So, it'll save you some time, but do not consider it to be perfect. That's my only word of caution for this, but it will be a time saver if you do something like this. Handoffs with public models like that there's no sensitive information being shared that is part of the model structure, because sometimes PII or other stuff can be in titles, table names, descriptions, other stuff. So just be a little careful when you're doing this because you know your model better than anyone. All right. I have to wait 1 second because my screen flickered, and it should come back. This is what I mentioned earlier, Steve, where it's like NVIDIA literally likes to blink my screen when I hear you, but like it's my screen's not turning back on. So I can blindly speak to my next slide. Okay. And it's clicking. Come on, click back on, please. There we go. Okay. I hate NVIDIA for doing this. All right. So one more click. There we go. Yep, and I already covered this. So translating measures using GPT, similar thing, but nowadays we also have the option for some of the integrated Copilot stuff. But I still like the UI experience in here. But pretty much, OpenAI or any LLM like Claude can give you assistance for doing some of these, especially when you can end up creating it as some macros, which is a cool thing. But more detail to come in the description if you go check that out later. But overall, translations, again, a similar story to perspectives. It provides a different view for different audiences to help make their experience easier when using modeling, especially with self-service. And I have entire presentations that actually talk about many of the best practices that go into curating a model to further enable self-service BI. And there's at least 7 or 8 things that I do in that entire hour presentation that specifically uses Tabular Editor for those. So that this is really, really good for curating the model, not just optimizing. Okay. I want to get to C# scripts as well. So there'll be a couple links that Steve will drop in as we go through this. But the thing that I love about C# is I think of it as like it is macros for Tabular Editor for those of you who used to use VBA and Excel, but C# is obviously a much better and more secure language for this. But it allows you to do programmatic access to model metadata, features, many different things that you can think of, and some really cool ones that have come out recently that we'll drop some links on. But you can do everything from batch creation of measures, programmatic changes to the model. You can even auto-generate SVG measures to create visualizations as well. Kurt Bueller, NJ Park, and a few others have written really cool articles on how to do this to create saved macros for that. So it's a great way to store programmatic logic that you've either accessed from the community. There's a great library available on the Tabular Editor website. I think there's a couple of repositories online between Tabular Editor, Mike Carlo, and I know Bernat has posted quite a few of those, but plenty of community content is the summary that I'll give for that one. So kind of already implied with some of these, it can reduce time, allows you to have repeatable logic. It scales really well. It can do a lot of things that might take you an hour, and it can do it in 30 seconds, 5 minutes, much shorter time to delivery for many of these tasks. Now, similar with a DAX editor, you'll be given a UI and window to basically either paste in, reuse, or type in any C# scripts that you want to run. And it allows you to perform any actions that you need C# to do. And I will say, just as I mentioned again with AI, because that's it's probably going to be mentioned a few times, it's really great for writing C# scripts. So if you can't find something you want to do available online, there are good options sometimes to maybe just go talk to an AI engine and help it. The problem is you're having to use 2 tools, which can be a little clunky, but it is nice to at least be able to get some code assist if you need to help get you across for that with some of those. Now, there, as I mentioned, a very large library available out there. The community PBI tips library is fantastic, but even the built-in one to Tabular Editor is a really great way to get you started and to also see what the options are. I think the number one thing that I use C# scripts is usually going to be generating a lot of DAX code. But again, it can do programmatic changes to the model, finds and replace, many things that you can think of. Just if there's ever a repeatable task that you're having to do the same time over and over again against multiple items, fields, measures, that's an opportunity for you to think about how can I maybe find or create a C# script in Tabular Editor to do that. Now, an important thing to think about between the two of them. What's a macro? What's a C# script? Macro is just a saved C# script. So you can run a single block of C# code once as a one-off. You've written it, ran it. But if you want that to be repeatable and reusable, you can save it, turn it into a macro, and then you have it in the little UI where you can right-click a field, go down to say like saved C# scripts, and you have that list of macros. You saw the one with the translation and using ChatGPT. That was a saved C# script as a macro. And to save them, pretty easy. For the most part, if you have the editor open, you want to name it, you can give it the context of where it's going to apply. So this means that in your Tom Explorer, when you right-click on any of these item types in the model, that's when you'll get the macro showing to be able to use it. So it allows you to make sure it's not popping up in places where it shouldn't be because it's not applicable to that item type. And if you need to run it or edit it or do anything with it later, there's a whole macro window. As I said, they have separate context windows for pretty much anything to manage various different types of items that you'll have as an access to this that's managed here. And overall, with this one, it's easy to go into a deep dive. So I'll just keep this brief and just say that it's one of my favorite features. And I would say it's the easiest 5 minutes to wow that you can get probably with Tabular Editors. If you want to save yourself some time, exploring C# scripts and or saving your own macros is a really, really good way to do this. So I'd highly recommend diving into this a little bit. All right, last but not least, DAX Debugger 101. Now, this is when it was debuted a couple of years ago. Thankfully, Daniel actually did it on my other YouTube channel, which was it was a really cool look into a lens of like the first tool that, well, it's not a true complete debugger in terms of like code sense. It is the closest thing we have to anything of this capacity for DAX that really lets you be able to dig into a measure and the language behind it. So in the times that you want to be able to like figure out what's going on with your DAX code, it's really nice to be able to see parts of it, have it broken down to like iterate through the blocks of code. What's being evaluated at which step, lenses into pieces of it. And there's some ways to do that a little bit in things like DAX Studio, but Darren, who makes the tool, will argue that like DAX Studio is less for, it's partially for debugging, but it's primarily for optimization and speed. But what about if like, well, the speed's fine, but the number's wrong? That's where the DAX debugger comes in. That truly gives you that breakdown segment steps to like dissect something like a surgeon and really figure out the piece that you might need to update or change with that. So that's what I love about being able to use this tool specifically. So let's take a quick look just at an issue. So like the number in this particular formula is not returning the value that we need to. So order lines for August 19th versus 28-day average, something's awry in this that I need to essentially go investigate. So trial and error is the way that most people do it. You go and you throw spaghetti at a wall until the number looks right. You just start changing stuff in the measure, check out the variables. But it's a little bit of a shotgun approach, not very efficient in terms of surgical. It is doing surgery with the chainsaw rather than a scalpel. So what tools can we have for that? So it's easy to get lost in basically the maze of DAX, as I love this analogy for. So when you are breaking this down, how do we figure out what part of the maze might be leading us astray? So various different pieces of this. And again, it's hard just using the DAX formula bar to be able to dissect all of this. So that's where the debugger comes into play. We can break down and navigate the DAX step by step. We can highlight and evaluate parts of the code. We can actually look into the context of different parts of the code to see the numbers and the results being returned for each of those. And then we could even watch other parts of the formula and kind of pin them as we investigate other things and change it around. So it gives us complete freedom to investigate as much or as little as we need. The tools built into it would be referred to, or the things that it looks at is the call tree, the locales, the evaluation context, and the watch. Now translated, and what I'll focus on more, I thought there used to be a slide right after this, but either way. So essentially the goal with each of these is really to be able to like break down your whole body of code, figure out which specific evaluation steps might be going awry, looking at the actual evaluation context being ran by the engine. But the final one with the watches, as you'll see in a second, is one of my favorite pieces of this. So this really allows you to essentially add to your view in the tool itself pieces of the code that you might want to watch as you then start evaluating other sections. So let's look at the UI to help essentially break some of this down. So if you are in a pivot grid and you're wanting to, in this example, evaluate average monthly order lines for the year of 2022, you can right click on it, select debug this value, which will then open up essentially the debugger window, show you the query the DAX query view, open that up, and then allow you to debug the particular cell in either of these scenarios. So both of these will then give you the option to drill down and go to the evaluation context, the query tree, all the other stuff to break this down. And the last place will be the performance analyzer. And this one will specifically allow you to fetch the code directly from a visual if you're not using Tabular Editor exclusively, say connected to a live model in Fabric or something else. This will give you the analyze the visual. And then finally, you'll get the option to copy query, spit it into Tabular Editor if you wanted to as a third potential option for this. All right, so now let's take a look at breaking this down a little bit. Now, technically, in the training, we will go into something that gives us a deep dive. I'm going to rephrase this to an intermediate dive because I want to keep things as short and sweet as I can, given such a fantastic, but albeit intermediate to advanced tool. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a call tree, locales, evaluation, context, and watch. Let's show these windows in the DAX debugger. So each of these broken down into more of like a map, and thanks to Kurt Bueller a bit for designing some of this. When we have these tools available to us in our belt in the DAX debugger universe, it will break down into essentially this UI that we have here, where the debugger itself will provide the top line code into there, and then the bottom sub panes and sections will break out the code into the components that we're wanting to analyze and interpret with the DAX debugger itself. So as I mentioned, the locales will show the measures, columns, variables, basically the current context that I'm looking at. And the important part that I want to mention on this is there's current context with locales, but at any point you can pin something if you want to watch it as well. So that's what that little subsection down here, just as a quick mention, is if you want to watch certain elements of this and or actually type in custom DAX code yourself, you can basically watch anything while trying to analyze the context of the rest of the stuff. So it allows you to basically pin values with filter context and other stuff if those are important for you as you're analyzing and dissecting the rest of the measure. The evaluation context is essentially what's being ran and evaluated by the engine itself. So what are the filters being applied? Really cool thing is if you actually want to see how the numbers change by toggling the various filters. So if I wanted to turn on or off the month or the year, I could do that from that perspective in there and be able to then watch the values over in my locales change as I modify these if needed to see if there might be a problem with a filter specifically. And that's probably the most common thing that you'll end up having a problem with a DAX calculation is there's something wrong with the filters. So you also have a really nice ability in the call tree to be able to navigate between prior and next step, go all the way down in a hierarchy, go up in a hierarchy. But all of this really just allows you to get as high or as low as you want to in the query to do your analysis. Now, depending on how you like to work, you can organize this in any method. There's no right or wrong way to design the UI with the Tom Explorer that you have built into Tabular Editor when you're essentially going to section out and align your panes in any of these areas. So whatever works best for you for that. But they have an example here that basically is giving you a common layout that you can use. But again, that's more of an art than a science in terms of just what's going to be important to you to put left, right, top, and bottom, depending on order preference for that. All right.
Awesome.
And Steve, do you want me to talk about the training agenda, or would it clicked off?
Yeah, so I think
take over for that one.
Yeah, I can take over. I think what we have now, and that was just a really sneak peek of these 4 modules. Hopefully it gave you a nice overview of some of the reasons you used Tabular Editor. Again, there's two tools, right? So a lot of these are Tabular Editor 3 specific. You can always check out Tabular Editor 2. Doesn't have some of the more enterprisey stuff. But hopefully that was a good overview. You can see here in the agenda, covers a lot more that we will go through in a 2-day course rather than a 1-hour live stream. So this is the agenda. Very, very, very good. Lots of cool things in there that we didn't show as well. Talking about things that we haven't shown and maybe that no one's shown before, I think this is the part that we're all really excited for, where we get to hand over to Morten from inside Tabular Editor. So
thanks, Steve. Yeah, love the walkthrough. Yeah, also just to reiterate, like this was great, but this was quick. Like that was quick. So in the in the live training, I know that you will get into much more depth about this, but also all the other things, and actually having the labs and to actually try out the things that we just talked about yourself in these kind of live trainings is, I think, a really important part of that whole learning experience. Yeah, right. And indeed, I brought a little something with me for this live stream. It's still early doors, so let's see if the demo gods are with me today. But just before I dive into that, just to also flag, we just actually released today the newest version of Tabular Editor, Tabular Editor 3.23.0, where there are both good stuff for the Fabric people in there, plus a lot of really good quality to life improvements that will make it that we just continuously update the tool to make sure that we fix both bugs, but also makes improvements and add new features to it. And that's enough log rolling there. Speaking of new features, what I want to get into a little bit has to do with what Reid actually talked about in his section there on C# scripting, because C# scripting is probably one of the most biggest productivity boosters you can have. But there aren't a lot of Power BI developers who know C#. It's a programming language. I don't know C#. I can read it enough to get by, but I definitely can't program anything in it. And that is so, as Reid also said in his LMLs, AI are actually quite good at these kind of things. Programming languages specifically, C# as well. And it's even something that I have actually written a blog about. So if you go to our blog page, I have written a blog about how to vibe code with C# scripts with LMLs. But it is, as you can also see in that blog post, a little bit of a endeavor.
Having to use two tools at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time, and the LML will not doesn't have the context of your model. It doesn't actually. It's not very good at knowing the APIs that are actually available in Tabular Editor that you can call, so to change things in your model, for example. So it will often hallucinate those, and it is quite a lot of back and forth between those two things to eventually get to something that works. So that's why we thought, well, maybe Tabular Editor can actually help you architect those C# scripts for you. Within the place where you have the context of your model, where you have access to all the APIs, where you can work inside one terminal and don't have to jump back and forth. So that's why we are currently developing, if I can find my mouse. What happened to it? Yeah. An AI assistant. So what does this do? Well, it allows you to spin up an AI, an LML that you can chat with, and that helps you build your model faster. But maybe we can just ask it what it can actually do. And it, in custom file, talks about the things I just mentioned: model development, modification, DAX queries, analysis, model exploration, metadata, automation, macros, all those kind of things. And it even is so nice to ask me what I would like to do right now. And what I would actually like to do is that I have over my Tom Explorer, you can see I actually have an open model, this space part model that has various facts and dimensions, but I am lacking a table, and I want to import a table. So let's ask the AI assistant how we do that. I want to import a table. How do I do that? And we can see that the call is going in. It comes little bubbly things. So this might be a simple thing where if you've used Tabular Editor before, you know how to do this. But if you are a beginner, never quite tried the tool before, you actually get a lot of things about how to do it. And it even lets you have like, oh, the easiest way is to just launch the table import wizard. So I can actually click in there and it will all open the wizard for me. So I can go through my existing data source, access it, find the new table that I want. In this case, I want to import an orders table. So we have, for example, says all document, there's a customer key, all those kind of things. And I'm just going to click through and ask it to import these things for me. So very simple. It can help you do some stuff in Tabular Editor, but also more advanced. Now that I've imported it, I can say I have imported the selected table. So I'm actually going to let the AI know that I've selected something over in my Tom Explorer. I'm not going to specify that it's the order table. I'm just saying it's I have the selected table, and I want you the AI to prepare it for being used in the model. So that will mean set displays folders, for example. Very typical thing to do when you import a table. The table itself, if we look at it over on the right-hand side, does not have any display folders. It is just a list of all the columns. So I'm gonna ask it to set display folders and add descriptions to every column in this table. Descriptions on every column. And what else? What else can we do? We can ask it, for example, to remove columns that does not have a business purpose. Maybe you can figure out from the context of the column name to whether or not they actually should be removed. As well as maybe set columns that a business user should not have access to as invisible. And we're going to ask it to go away and start working on that. And it will think about it. Sometimes it would also tell you what it's thinking about. So I can see you have the order table selected and I want to prepare it. Whoa, then we started it. I can see it has 15 columns and are most technical and need to be organized properly. And here is a comprehensive script that it just created for you. So while I was thinking, it opened up a new tab for a script, a C# script of 67 lines that will do the things that we just ask it to. And it goes out and tells you what it's actually going to do so that you can review that. If you don't feel like reading through the code, you can also review it in a more human-friendly way. And we can run that, and hopefully that works. And I have now, for the orders table, had it do all the columns. I now have, for example, descriptions for them. I have all my order dates into the same folder, those kind of things. Now that would maybe have taken me an hour to do, half an hour at least, just every individual's writing all those kind of things. Of course, it's an AI, it's not magic. You're gonna have to review this because it might not understand the context correctly, or it might even hallucinate something. It's an LLM. That's what they do. But it got me quite far pretty quickly. Another thing I could do is this gets a little bit more. So, okay, we now have some order in it, but what about actually creating measures and creating DAX for us? Well, let's try and see what happens. Create the basic measures. So we're gonna ask it to just create, and it's gonna get wild, but just see what it does. Basic measures from the table that I have selected. Again, this idea about the context, I don't have to specify it's an order table. It will know all these things just from what I've selected in the Tom Explorer, which I actually think is like when you start seeing that, like that is where it really comes into its own compared to like sitting and copying, pasting back and forth to ChatGPT or Claude or whichever LML you're using. So create the basic measures from the selected table and its columns that a business and I can't spell analyst would need, and send that off. Let the AI chew that over a little bit, and we'll see if we actually get something useful back. And again, the way that this works is that it doesn't create the measures by itself. It starts out by creating a lot of gets a little bit confusing to look at when it does that, I find. Just running through code and writing a lot of lines. But it will here have said, I've created a comprehensive set of 22 basic measures for the order tables, core sales measure, type-based analysis, growth analytics, delivery performance. It has, and this is even without me asking for it, it has grouped the measures into logical display folders, so it's gonna applied appropriate number formatting, and then it's used the prefix to clearly identify AI-generated measures. So that's why it's doing the whole little red dot around next, so that it's at least easy to figure out which ones you made yourself and which ones the LML use. So let's try and run that, and it's going to execute that script. And we now have a folder with all those correct measures. So there is order lines, total orders, a count row, a distinct count, not very interesting, but there is even something like delivery, oops, wrong button, perform. So delivery performance, it decided to do, and does something on the billing dates and calculate stuff. Now, I can't say now that this is actually valid business context. You need to evaluate this,
of course,
in the business context that you're using it in. But it has a way to get started. It went pretty fast, and I think it's pretty cool. So that's kind of
really, really awesome.
the thing that we have lined up down the pipeline. I don't have a timeline right now that I can say it's going to be out by, but I just thought that I here would, for the first time publicly, do a demo of it and kind of show what it is we're brewing on in the back of our minds.
So my question is when are we getting it 2.0 that's going to incorporate Clippy?
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's C# scripts. You can program anything.
That is true.
So Kurt Bueller, for example, they programmed the Snake game inside Tabular Editor.
Didn't somebody do Doom? I swear somebody did Doom at one point.
That was also Kurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything is possible. Even Clippy, I'm sure.
Yeah, either Clippy or the Wizard would be my choices for those early Office avatars. No, it's really cool though. I mean, there's a little bit of I was trying to tee you up slightly, would be like, yes, you can copy paste, but having two windows open in a context where it doesn't know your fields list and stuff, so you have to give it maybe the template code for it to know what to write. It's possible, but it's like 5 steps. This is more like 1 step, to do these things.
And
yeah.
And what is important for us is also that it's AI that makes sense. AI is not like just putting something in here and letting it run loose would be against our ethos. Basically, it needs to be something that actually helps the users develop faster. And you also just have to be aware that it's not magic. It does make mistakes, and you do need to review the things that it produces, both the C# scripts and the DAX code afterwards. But I think that's to get started on it and using C# to quickly iterate over things with natural language, I think is really a productivity booster.
100%. I mean, it's saving you on tasks where in your head, like, this is the output that I want, but it's like, for me, it's 20 steps. I would like this to be 1 if I just explain it appropriately. It's a really good doer. There was a question from Bernat, but I'm asking him to follow up. Steve, did you understand his, or do you need also a bit more context?
We'll bring it up here.
Okay. Is it possible to provide background instructions on how you like to do things?
So I'm assuming give us some context
providing your own context.
Great
question, Bernard. Again, I think, let me put it this way. Please just write us an email and say it is something that you would like to do. I obviously know it, but we're developing it. We're looking at what we need to do. There's gonna probably be a public preview kind of feature time for it, so where we can refine it as well. So I can't speak specifically to it right now, Bernard, but it's a good thought. I agree.
I think it goes 2 things I think are very important that people are figuring out now with AI. First is context. Again, it has context of what you're in. We don't want just the general AI to try to do everything with that context. And then the second being validations. As you mentioned many times, and this is not Tabular Editor, I think this is any AI, validate always. We're not pure vibe coders here, so giving it some giving you some validations. So I think that's very interesting. Wow. Very excited to use it when it's in preview.
Yeah. Now we're looking forward to getting it out there to play. Yeah, but it needs a little bit more fine tuning on our side as well.
Another good question, which I actually think I was going to probably ask myself anyways. So, Chris Wolderink, if I'm getting the name right, he's wondering where this AI functionality is exactly running. Will my model metadata also be shared with, as an example, OpenAI or any of the other cloud models?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Chris. The current iteration that I showed right now allows you to set up your own APIs. So you need that you can call your own ChatGPT or Anthropic model or whatever. So you need to have access to and pay for your own model to do that. we are exploring ways of what we can do in this space. But again, it's a live discussion, and I don't have anything specific to say about that at this moment. But this iteration is about setting up a API key so that it will send your model metadata to some of it, at least what it needs to do the job. It will need that to send that on to an LLM right away.
There's one mention on that with and Kurt's writing, and we'll be writing bunches of articles on like MCP servers. But one thing that I've not done, but I think you could do as a handoff is if you pass it through an MCP server code that's connected to the cloud, you can have something in there like, Python or something else that obfuscates your metadata automatically. So you can give it a set of rules to like scan as part of the handshake up, and like, oh, if I notice this thing, and then you have to approve, like, I've noticed these 3 things, I'm changing X to Y, handing off basically a modified version of the metadata and back down. So there are ways to still use cloud, but protect it a bit without having to literally manually scrub sensitive information, just as a very high level mention of like a use case for MCP servers.
Yeah, that is definitely a use case for MCP servers. Again, if that's hosted in the cloud, it's also then you have to host that MCP server yourself if you don't want to onto somebody else, obviously. And secondly, like the difficulty in general with obfuscating, for example, context, is that you actually lose the context through that obfuscation. So if we say, write me a description for my measure, average days to billing, and what ends up at the LML is write me a description for it will not give a coherent description for that.
True. Yeah. That you'd obviously have to properly train the MCP to do that. I'm thinking of like, let's assume you have lighting utility wood or something like that as your department names, and you'd prefer it to be called like spacebar this and that. So it would translate in both directions. It would translate up, change the names, and then it would keep the key, and then it would put it back. So but it's a double-edged sword.
It would still be for whatever it has translated.
So, exactly.
But in that instance, if you're more talking about the code, like the DAX code, where it's measure names that you then can translate back and forth, that might be easier in that sense. But MCP servers also, it's a very interesting topic that can help with these kind of things for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a whole separate like can of worms. I've absolutely loved playing around with them recently. But all I'll just say is, if you're curious on what I've just mentioned on this, I'll let the two of you talk. But I'll throw a couple links in. Kurt started to do a few videos on those, so like he will continue the conversation for you if you're curious about how to set them up or tinker around with them. But they are, I think it's the next big wave for AI stuff is going to be like pairing them with MCP servers that you run locally.
I can only recommend Kurt's videos on the topic. They are
exactly. I'll end it with that and drop a link in.
Lots of very interesting stuff coming out, I think, with AI, especially in the BI space. So Kurt's definitely there's a few people chatting. I think everyone's figuring out together, but Kurt's definitely one that seems to be putting a lot of effort in.
For sure. And it is a technology that is just interesting, that can change things. But in general, I think it is just going to make us focus on the things that are actually important. So really, just generally with regard to vibe coding an app, for example, the most important part nowadays, if you want to do that with an AI of some sort, is that you need to get that context right. You need to start really pounding out very detailed user stories and tasks for it to understand and do correctly. I think for now, at least, it shifts where we need to focus. But I don't think it's, it fundamentally changes the world in that way.
It allows developers to become managers for their own agents. Developers to manage. Like that, basically, like everybody is now like they've added manager to the role. But yeah, it's super cool stuff. I can easily spend half a day talking about it, so I won't digress too far into it. But I love the fact that you guys have integrated on it. Like everything is moving to low code, no code, right? Like that's the point. Even Tabular Editor is designed with the UI is meant to like mostly keep you out of needing to write Tyndall. But now at least the other major component of that is the only place where you were probably code heavy if you had to write your own stuff was with C# scripts. And now that this will be one thing that makes that even that much easier and more approachable. As you can basically just ask a question like, oh, that's how you would do this. But cool, now it has the context of my model. I'm not having to do find and replace on like 500 lines of something I grabbed off the repository, which it's still better than nothing, but it can be a little tedious to do that. That will actually be one thing I'm curious about is if somebody goes, I'm hoping the AI built in is you just paste a blob of like C# script that you've already inherited from somewhere, or you give it a link or something like that. Modify this, make it fit with my model or something like that, rather than having to go through and edit it. I think that will be another huge win too.
Yeah, I'm not sure where what capabilities we can have it do, but so the things I've shown has been very model specific. So in general, when you try to write C# scripts, you want to make them reusable, right? You want to be able to use them, at least if you want to use them for the macros that you also talked about in your presentation, Reid. They should be reusable across different objects. So they're kind of like different use cases there. There is just like what I show right now, the C# scripts and the generator are very specific to the context. Whereas there is also the type of C# scripting, which is more over into like general tasks that you can do, such as setting is available in MDX on all selected column. Is a very classical C# script that is usable and that exists out there in C# script libraries. So there is also a difference in what does the C# script actually do there, like categorically.
Exactly. And I know we're getting up to time. Steve, as we're wrapping up, or Morten, is there any remaining, I think, takeaways, epiphanies? I think I saw you do the banner. Steve, did we paste that into the comments as well?
Yep. So our training link will be in the comments. We'll also put it in the description of the video. Definitely reach out to us or on LinkedIn or anything. Really, we'd love to teach you. We love Tabular Editor. I think a lot of love in the community for Tabular Editor. So we'd love to come and hang out with you for a couple of days and teach you more about it. It was really, really cool. I think everyone was very excited to see the sneak peek, and we're absolutely amazed, as you can see from our faces. Very, very honored that you did the demo first here. So really looking forward to the cool stuff.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the trainings go, and also hearing what you guys think of it and how the feedback is from the people who get to go to the trainings. So I think this is a thing that we will continue developing on together as well, to make it a really good experience to go on those kind of live in-person trainings.
Yeah. Like now that I think about it, this is the third or fourth like major like announcement that's between either of my channels that's been done for Tabular Editor, because Daniel, to the begrudging of some other channels, debuted Tabular Editor 3 first on with me. Then it was the DAX debugger. And I think now it's the AI piece of it. It's almost become like a family tradition at this point.
We have exactly. Go talk to you about it.
Basically, But like, I'm always honored and appreciative of it. Just to be able to participate in those, and just to be an audience member to a degree, because like this was the you talked about it, but I didn't actually get to see it in action. So my own wow factor is just like getting to see it for the first time while doing a stream is really cool.
That's great to hear.
Excellent. I think unless there's anything else, Steve, are you ready to wrap up and close off?
I think so. Thank you everyone for joining. It looks like Alex from Microsoft just jumped on a bit late here, but thanks everyone for joining and sticking around. I know we a bit of a longer stream today, but I think very worth it because there's so much cool stuff So thank you so much, Morten, for coming along and hang out with us.
Thank you.
I think we got to repeat it though. He's saying we should start all over for the stream.
Yeah, well,
next time,
you can watch a replay.
I mean, he can watch it.
Yeah,
back.
exactly. Oh no, yeah, of course. Perfect. Yeah, more. I'll miss you at FabCon Europe, but I'm sure I'll see you again at some point at one of the conferences in the near future. And thanks again for coming on, and have a great rest of your night as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, and take care of yourself, and have fun in Turkey, Reid.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right, see you on the other side.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.